As we move into the 1950s, we continue to see the impact of the LABC Women's Mission Society on the church, both within the walls and beyond. In January of 1950, we have a thank you letter from Ruth Macomb at the Boston Baptist Bethel House that was received in giving thanks for the gifts that were sent from the LABC women. And in January of 1951, two teas were held at which the film South of the Clouds was shown, after which Miss Anderson, student assistant at LABC for the year, made a presentation on the film. That same year, the White Cross supported two new missionaries. Toys, dolls, aprons, handkerchiefs, and ties were sent to Miss Ines Keel at the Overland Missionary in Puerto Rico, and sets of blocks were sent to Miss Mabel Olson at the Indian Mission in Oklahoma. In November of 1951, the second annual Church Bazaar was held. Our archives contain quite a bit of information about the Church Bazaar that was held in 1951 and another in 1952. At the one of 1952, proceeds were designated for the remodeling of Webster House. From this note, we have information that $1,585 profit was made after expenses were deducted. This was used for that particular remodel of Webster House. However, at this time, the women were not just active in church bazaars. Following the lead of the New York State Women's Society, the LABC Society during this time decided to merge the Friendliness Committee with the Christian Citizenship Committee. These activities of the new Christian Social Relations Committee would also be involved in the investigation of Congress voting records, circulation of 1952 Baptist resolutions, observations of United Nations Day, Human Rights Day, Race Relations Day, and letters to congressional representatives. Furthermore, the Society also collected clothing and underwear for children and babies up to 6 years of age to create packets of peace which were distributed throughout the world. In addition, the World Service Committee also sent packages of food to several Baptist families in Germany who were also in need of gifts of clothing and care packages. In November of 1953, at the same time as the annual Church Bazaar, the Society responded to a request that came through from the Council of Church Women to assist with mending that would help with the needs of the Hillside Children's Home. And in October of 1954, an evening meeting of the Society celebrated Carolyn Bevan, wife of Dr. Robert Bevan, who was son of A.W. Bevan, who spoke on the mission work of Isabel Crawford with the Native Americans in Oklahoma. Around that same time, the Society received a request to have a member attend the meetings of the local Waldensian Society, which today has a relationship with the Methodist movement. And in January of 1955, the Business and Professionals Group began to consider becoming a recognized society of the Circle. In February of 1955, the Society voted to send 2 women to a national gathering of the American Baptist women at the American Baptist Assembly, established in 1944 as a national campground, spiritual center, and conference retreat center. And in 1955, the theme for the Mother-Daughter Banquet was A Pattern for Living. The Society also hosted Miss Violet Rudd, Administrative Secretary of the National American Baptist Women's Board of Directors, who spent an entire day meeting with the Circle officers and Executive Committee discussing the challenges and plans for future women's programs in the local church. It's particularly interesting how the women were able to balance their national and local interests in missions. At a visit to the Women's Society of the Tonawanda Indian Reservation Baptist Church, to which they were invited, they heard the stories of a Quinton Blue Eye, a young Indian boy from the Tonawanda Indian Reservation who felt called to ministry to work with his people. His intent was to go to Bacone College in Oklahoma, then to Eastern Seminary, but there were no funds to pay for his education, and the Society formed a committee to take this under consideration. In May of 1956, the Society presented a fashion show in cooperation with Sibley's department store. The models were young women from LABC, and the proceeds went to the Student Benefit Fund. Tickets were 75 cents each, and $373 was raised. Around that same time, the Sunday Night Club, which had been carrying out work with migrants for several years, requested that the Society provide some assistance, and the Christian Social Action Committee pledged to recruit the needed workers. At the same time, Lowell Fuster was sent to the American Baptist Assembly at Green Lake as a member of the New York State Baptist Youth Federation to attend the National Youth Council. It was in December of 1956 that LABC voted to sponsor a Hungarian refugee family. The Society pledged to assist in whatever manner was needed to get the family settled in their new country. Always well organized, here we find that in 1957 the theme for the year is Living Water, the foreign study focus is Japan, and the home study is Church and Race. In February of 1957, Church World Service Circle announced that it was having souvenir plates with an image of the church on the front and a brief history on the back, and the plates were sold for $2 each. And on May 7th and May 8th, the annual meeting of the New York State Council of American Baptist Women was hosted by LABC, with over 900 women in attendance. Mrs. Naomi Carmen was a speaker at that convention. In September of 1957, the children of the church participated in the Trick or Treat for UNICEF program sponsored by the United Nations and were encouraged by the women of the society. And then in January of 1958, information was shared about the Refit Fund used to refit missionaries with supplies that were needed for their work. The society voted to give their Easter offering to this work. We know that while this list is comprehensive, it is by no means complete, because the women of this ministry have continued over this period of time to be deeply engaged in mission and ministry, both local and abroad.